So far, we've been discussing how to use web links to allow people to navigate from one web page to another. Today, we're going to talk about using anchors and how to link to anchors within your web pages. This can help in cases where your web pages are really long and you need to be able to get people very quickly, maybe without a lot of scrolling, from one section of the page to another. For our example here, we're going to use the rooms page. Now, this isn't an extreme example because the page really isn't that long. You can get from top to bottom in a very short amount of time. But it is an example of a page that doesn't all fit on one screen view. So what if you're at the top of this page and you want to be able to quickly get to the information in the garden room? Well, wouldn't it be nice to have a set of links up toward the top that when they're clicked would not bring you to a full new page, but bring you to the section of the page that's covered by that topic? So we're going to work with the rooms page. Go ahead and open the rooms document in your text editor. And I have Notepad opened up right here. In step number 2, you are asked to go into the H3 tag for the sunroom and add an ID. And in this case, they're asking you to call it sun. And then to go down to the read room and do the same thing. ID equals read. I change the size of this window just a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing. We will do this for every room. The tree house, I believe that they're asking us to add an ID of tree. And in the garden room, we're going to add an ID of garden. Remember how IDs work. Whenever they're embedded within another tag, they take effect for any of the materials that are between the opening and closing tag where it's defined. So in this case, you have the H3 tag with an ID of garden. That ID stays in place until the H3 is closed over here. So everything in this phrase garden room is included with the ID of garden. We're going to go ahead and save this. And the book doesn't tell you to do this, but again, you're learning that I often save my work and test it. I'll reload the page right now, and as you can see, nothing has really happened to make the page look different. All we've done at this point is identify the IDs. There's nothing that's going to show up visibly on the outside. So in step 4, we're actually going to start to create some links in this document, some things you'll actually be able to see in the HTML. Remember, we talked about how we want to eventually have a menu across the top that will bring you to a specific place in the page. Once people are to that specific place in the page, like to one of the specific rooms, we want to give them an easy way to get back to the top menu. So we're going to go ahead and put in the text that's been specified in the book above each of the room names. You'll notice that my indentation is not looking too pretty right now, but this should still work for us. So you can see now I've added the href tag that has the anchor text or the words back to top. And the actual value that's within that tag is just a pound box. You got to think about what that could do. Normally what we've seen with href tags or links is that they will bring the user, when they're clicked, to some other page that has the information they're looking for. When people clicked on local weather, they were able to get to the AccuWeather page. When they clicked on the About Us page, they were able to get to the About Us information. Well, in this case, there's a special value in here, this pound sign box. The pound sign means that you are no longer just going to go to another page to get information. You're going to be directed to a different spot on the same page. So let's see how this works. Now that we've typed all the information in from step 4, we'll go ahead and save the HTML. Then I'm going to go back to the document. Notice now when I reload the document, there's a back to top link next to each one of the rooms. So for instance, if I go down to the garden room and then quickly want to get back to the top, I can just click right here. It's bringing me back to the box ID within the page. Now we're going to work to actually get started on building the menu system. We're going to create a new blank line just before the sunroom H3. And as your book describes, we're going to put a div tag in there. And then we're going to create a p tag with the ID of page nav. Next, we're going to start actually building the links. You should see a couple things that look familiar here. First of all, we have a tag with a £, sun. Remember how we built the £, box earlier? And when we clicked on that, no matter where in the page we clicked on a link that had the £, box, it brought us to the top of the page, or where we had originally defined the box ID. Here, when someone actually clicks on the menu item sunroom, it will bring them to the portion of the site that has the ID of sun. If you recall, we created that earlier on in this exercise for each of the rooms. Then we closed out the link and we put a pipe there. Remember, the pipe is just a good separator for menu items. We're going to go down and do this for each room. And for the read room, the ID is read. Need to put the space pipe there. Again, we want a divider between each one of these items. Treehouse is called tree. Remember, the text that actually becomes the link, the text in between the opening A and the closing A, is referred to as anchor text. And the last room is the garden room. Once we have all of those in, we're going to close the p tag, and then we're going to close the div tag. I'm going to save this, and then we're going to look at it in our browser. It certainly is not going to probably look right in the browser because we haven't applied any styles to this menuing, but let's give it a look. Alright, so we have 3 links there. One of them without a pipe between them after the treehouse and before the garden room. We should probably go back and correct that. Going back to the code, going to add a pipe after the treehouse. Save it. Go back to the actual page in a web browser. See how there's a pipe between the sunroom and the read room, between the read room and the treehouse, but not currently between the treehouse and garden room. Well, we just added that in, so there should be one showing up, and there it is right there. These links are very hard to read, and that's why we have to go back and style the links. In the CSS file, you'll remember that we created some special styles for links earlier. Down toward the bottom of your CSS document, there should be some main nav link styles. In the last session, we talked about these pseudo link styles that actually apply a different style depending on the state of the link. If a mouse is hovering over the link, we know that it could show up one way. If it's just been clicked, another. If it's a link we've visited in the past, yet another. And any links that included the main nav ID will have the rules applied that we had previously designated. But for this exercise, we're asked to give ourselves a space or a line just above the previous rules that we've created for main nav, and we're going to type in the information from the book. I've already typed it in. I'm just going to paste it at this point into the document, and I want to just go over a little bit about what is happening here. There's an error right there that I'll correct. But just like we had specific rules that applied to links that were part of the main nav ID, we also now have specific rules that apply to the page nav ID. And that's important. You should remember we just created a page nav ID in the HTML that was surrounding the actual links to the specific rooms on that page. In addition to the page nav rules, we've also created some general rules. For any links that do not fall into a defined ID, in this case either main nav or page nav, it will be given the colors or the attributes that are associated with the generic links. Notice here, all we have is the A. Okay. And so at this point, we should be all set to be able to give this a try and see if it makes any changes to the navigation. Think about what we've done. We have put the navigation within the page surrounded by a div called nav page, and we've set up rules for nav page here. Let's take a look and see how they look. We're going to save this document. I'm going to pull up in my browser the rooms page. Remember, last time we looked at the rooms page, the links for the page navigation, the internal page navigation, didn't stick out very well. They didn't look very good. So now when we reload, let's see what happens. Looks much better. You can see that now they're a white, and when we mouse over them, they turn sort of a brown color. And let's see what happens for an active link, one that we have actually clicked on. Remember, active links only stay active for just a moment until the new content's loaded. Also remember, this isn't going to take long at all because the new content is right on the same page. So in this case, when we hit the garden link, we should go down to the information about the garden room. And there we did. If we want to go back up to the menu, we just click back to top. This whole time, all of these links are keeping us within the same page, just different locations within that page.